said that, let's go into these categories. So the most important considerations when you're going to do your marketing is, number one, is your target market. There's higher probability patients versus lower probability patients. Now, demographics are factors like age, sex, occupation, income, familial status. Those are some of the common demographics. Well, there is an S curve in all of these categories. In other words, I hope you have not bought into believing that everybody's a potential chiropractic patient, because they're not. Some of them are way, way greater, and it's like the bell curve. Well, you want to target the peak of the bell curve in these categories where there's real high probability. You don't want to be on the outside perimeter chasing these very low probabilities. Even some people who just don't even believe in chiropractic. You don't even want to waste your time or money on that. So you do need to know something about demographics to increase the sweet spot, to position you to win. That's what a target market does. It positions you to win and make it much easier for you. And the same with geographics. We don't want to be chasing somebody that's outside of our geographic radius of draw. They won't come in. And the same with psychographics. That psychographics is lifestyles, attitudes, and beliefs. Again, if they don't even believe in chiropractic, they're not even health-minded, you don't want to waste your time or money with them. So this is where psychographics becomes a major category. So you could do so much wrong right now. You could be in the lowest demographic outside of your geographic radius of draw with somebody who doesn't even believe in natural health care or chiropractic. And now it doesn't matter what kind of marketing you do. It's not going to work, or it's going to be very, very low in effectiveness. And then you go to the vehicle of delivery. Well, that's how you're going to communicate with them, whether it's online, a video, a phone call, in person, TV, radio. So there's all the different ways of communicating with people that will significantly increase versus decrease the effectiveness of whatever marketing you're using. That plays a major role. And then you go into the unique sales position. Well, after people have a need, they'll buy in one of 5 reasons. It'll either be trust, proximity, price, location, or quality. That's what it'll be. That's why people in chiropractic, number 1 is always trust. Number 2 is 75% is location. So after referrals, everything about marketing better be location, because that's 75%. After that is number 3 is cost, 15 to 20%. Service is only 3%. That's why you would never market a service factor to only 8% of the population, because it's ridiculously small. And quality is number 5. That's why you would never market a quality factor, because it's number 5. It's only 3%. And people expect you to give quality if you're a licensed professional. That's why it's so small and irrelevant. But that's why we would never market based on quality, because it's only 3% of 8% that are going to pick based on quality. So you're talking about, and then you're limited by your geographic radius of draw, and you got to share with your competition. Why would you want to do that? The answer is you would not. You would want nothing to do with it. Okay, so now the next major category is the circle of influence. Well, this is huge, because that's where there's already going to be trust, number 1. And remember, every time we as consumers buy products or services, what's the number 1 category in every industry that we will choose first? It's trust. So not only is it important for you to reverse engineer and go through your patients because there's already trust, but now their defenses are down, and that's how they're going to pick. That's their number 1 way of picking, is through their circle of influence. And it's so unbelievably easy to see if that person has a gateway problem. So now I already have high trust in the gateway problem, and I've already covered 2 of the 4 categories of advertising and marketing. Number 1 is establishing need. Number 2 is minimizing money. Number 3 is minimizing time. Number 4 is affecting trust. So as soon as I go into the circle of influence, I've already eliminated, I'm already in the trust category, the number 1 category they'll pick. And it's real easy for me to talk to a patient or whatever and see if their kid, spouse, mother, father has a gateway problem, back pain, neck pain. It's real easy. So I have an unbelievable high probability with that patient. That's why circle of influence. And circle of influence, they'll go out of your way for you to help you if they live under the same roof because they have a lot of empathy. So if it's a spouse, a mother, a kid that's living under the same roof, that's the absolute highest probable target market. And that's why, because you already are going to have 2 of the 4 equations in the bag. You've got the hardest thing in the bag. All you have to do now is handle time and money. And you got a new patient. So the next one's proactive versus passive. And this is huge because if you stick with the passive route, you're only going to be limited to the 8%. There's only 8% of the population looking for a chiropractor. So if you don't do anything, you're stuck with 8%. Now that's a small number. And generally that's about 4 to 6 new patients a month. In other words, depending on where you go, you put an office, generally you'll get, 1 or 2 or 3 new patients just from market forces, just from being there. That's all. So if you don't do anything and you don't know anything, you'll average about 4 to 5, no more than typically 6 new patients a month. That's it. Now that's typically not enough to survive, especially if you don't know patient retention. So if you get 4 or 5 or 6 new patients and they stay for 4 or 5 or 6 visits, that's not enough money to pay your mortgage, your rent, your car payment. You'll go, and this is why, by the way, chiropractors are going broke all the time. This is why you see chiropractors go out of business all the time, because they don't know what I'm covering. They don't know that they actually have to do something to get more than 4 to 6 new patients a month. And then they don't know how to do it, or they don't have the money to pay to spend a lot of money on advertising. And the game's over. You're out of practice just like that. And that's why they say, 50% of chiropractors are out of practice within 5 years. And I believe it. I've seen it. I've seen chiropractors go under left and right. Not because they're a bad chiropractor. It's because they don't know marketing. They don't even know they don't know marketing. That's what makes it even worse. I was talking to a doctor the other day. He has a patient retention of 12. My patient retention is 28. He was astonished. He's like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, because I do something that you don't even know about. He wasn't even aware that you could do something different than what he was doing. That's how bad it was. Okay, so passive versus, so the bottom line, you're out of the game. If you stick passive, you lose. You're stuck with 8% of the population divided by the chiropractors in your geographic area. You lost. The only best hope you have is if you have good patient retention. Even then, so this is why typical chiropractors only see 20 to 40 visits a week. That's why it's called market forces. And if you see 60 visits a week, it's because your patient retention is a little better. That's all. So this passive versus proactive is night and day whether you'll be successful. But it's only one component. Because you let's say you're proactive, but you do the wrong thing. Well, now it's going to take a lot more effort, time and effort, or money to make it work. So this is only one thing. It doesn't matter if you're proactive and you go out and do cold call screenings in the mall every night. It's the worst thing you could do. So publicity versus advertising versus educational sales. These are the 3 types of marketing. So when you get a chance to market to your target market, there's only 3 opportunities. Well, there's actually 4. Number 1 is do nothing. So number 1 is you could do nothing. Number 2 is publicity. Publicity doesn't work well because it's only designed to affect trust. That's it. Publicity would be like posting a video saying, hey, I'm a chiropractor, and I help back pain. That's not that you are saying, you're part of the local chiropractic society, or, you're a member of this or that. That's publicity. So publicity doesn't work well at all. It's the lowest form of marketing that gets patients. It's used to increase trust, awareness, and name recognition. That's why publicity is used. It's used for the other marketing systems. It's not used to get new business alone by itself. That is not how it's used, because it only affects trust. It doesn't affect need, doesn't affect money, doesn't affect time. Then you go into advertising. Well, the good and bad news about advertising is, the bad news is it only works for the 8% that's looking. Again, if I want a steak and I'm driving down the road and I'm looking for a steakhouse, how many seafood restaurants? They're advertising seafood. I'm hungry. How many seafood restaurants will I pass? I'll pass all of them. Why? Because I'm looking for steak. So advertising does not work for 92% of the population that is not looking for a chiropractor. So what's the problem there? It's limited to 8%. And then you have to know the advertising formula. There's 14 emotional triggers. There's 14 different categories in advertising that need to be included in advertising to increase its effectiveness. So if you're only doing 2 or 3, you significantly reduced the effectiveness of your advertising. So you want your advertising to be in front of your target market. So if you have it in front of the wrong demographics or psychographics or geographics, you lost. It doesn't even matter how good that advertising is. You lost. So there's many variables that need to be in line to increase the effectiveness of marketing. So target market's number one. And then when you do the advertising, you better have those 14 emotional triggers. 14 emotional triggers are like how you're going to help, the problem, other results of the problems, some facts of how you've helped, a guarantee, things like that. Those are part of the 14 characteristics that people like when they buy something that they want, consciously and subconsciously. So the less that you have those in your advertising, the less effective your marketing is going to be. And then let's say you put it against the wrong demographic, psychographic, geographic, or their psychographic barriers. Now it's all blown up. You just decreased everything.